when people use the excuse of there's not enough time, it's usually not true, right? And it's just what it is. And that's not to condemn anybody, but it's just like, well, if you're a business owner and you really want this to work, you make it work. Like
he
you
says it nicer than I do.
right. Like you just,
I was like, you want to say that.
But it's the truth. It's the truth.
I'm
like,
a little raunchy with my delivery.
Well, sometimes you need to hear how they need to hear it. But the reality is, you just have to make time for it. If you truly know that this is a business that God called you to, if you truly believe in your heart that this is a business that you're supposed to run, you're supposed to operate, you make the time, you know, and that requires sacrifice. That requires sacrificing, you know, going to hang out with friends. That requires sacrificing, you know, spending money where you know you shouldn't be spending and investing it back in your business. It's sacrifice. So
on the road to 7 figures and becoming a 7-figure entrepreneur, there are a lot of bumps in the road. Some things that are in your control and some things that are not. Well, today we're going to discuss those qualities that are necessary in order to help you reach those goals and to become a 7-figure entrepreneur. So today, we're joined by Trevon Gross Jr. He is a leadership coach, and what else would you call yourself?
I would consider myself a minister.
Oh.
Yep, I'm a minister.
He said it, I didn't. So we're going to be good today.
Oh, good.
Right, Tanya?
Of course, always.
Listen, y'all.
Always a good girl.
Listen, we have to be good when we are in the presence of glory.
Well, I shouldn't laugh at that. We are, okay.
No, y'all flow how y'all flow. I'm here as a guest. So y'all
Don't get Tanya started over there now.
Well, I guess I will start. So what inspired you to combine leadership with ministry?
Well, because when you think about, you know, for those of you with a faith background, Jesus was the perfect leader. And the Great Commission was a part of go out and make disciples. And so when you think about that direction, that command that he gave, first off, you can't give what you don't have. You cannot train others to be what you are not. So the idea of go out and make disciples, I have to first be a disciple. And so with the idea of leadership, at least I specialize specifically with self-leadership, it's the idea that, okay, before we think about leading teams and scaling and all these things, I have to be able to lead myself. I have to be able to say, if I'm going to go do X, I'm going to go do it at the time I say it. There's not going to be any procrastination, not negotiating with myself, right? There's a lot of dynamics that are necessary. So to me, self-governance, self-leadership, it's all the same. Whereas if I could consider myself, you know, whether it's in the context of ministry, where I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, whether it's in business, where I say I'm a high-level entrepreneur, in any realm, you need to be able to say, okay, I'm going to do that and actually do it and follow through, right? So it can't just be I say one thing, but I only do 50% of it. Or I say I'm gonna have the meeting at 7 o'clock, but my reputation says everyone knows I'm not getting there till 7:30. Like, those are the little things that hinder you, right? Yeah. So that's really where that marriage came from, where it's like, okay, I got it from Jesus, I got it from the Bible, but I also see how practically it applies to business.
Some people struggle with being 100% spiritually. So I guess they will probably struggle also in entrepreneurship if they can't commit to that as well. Well, it's a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, it's possible.
But to follow up on that, do you follow Myron Golden at all? Okay. So I do as well. And I know he compares a lot King Solomon and his leadership skills to some of the skills that you should use in order to become a high-level entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Are there any qualities or scriptures or anything particular from the Bible that you usually reference as it pertains to entrepreneurs? Like he says, oh, King Solomon, follow everything King Solomon does, and that will...
Yeah, so the first one that comes off the top of my head is my favorite verse ever, is Proverbs 16:3. Commit all your actions to the Lord, and he will cause them to succeed. That, to me, is basically what I base my entire goal setting framework on. So for me, I'm really big on setting goals and things of that nature. And just that entire scripture speaks to, okay, I commit myself to my actions. First off, most people struggle with commitment.
100%.
We don't even, like, you can put that in a spiritual space, a business space, like, it doesn't necessarily matter. But first off, I have to commit myself to a plan, right? But then also, when I commit myself to the plan and I give it to him, he's the one, God will be the one that actually causes it to succeed. So for me, I just have to be intentional with coming up with a plan, and he will cause it to succeed. Now, again, I don't want to get too deep with this. But when you think about the fall of man with Adam and Eve, that's where there was a shift in authority. So before there was sin into the world, God provided for everything. That's when you think about the Garden of Eden everything like that. But once that shift happened, now everything that God wanted to do on the earth, he had to do through a person. Now, there was still work involved. There were still things that had to happen, but he had to do it through a person. So if I'm intentional, I commit myself to a plan, right? And I follow through on that plan, that self-governance point we talked about, he's the one that ultimately will get me the result. I have to honor the process. You think about in the Bible where it talks about the Israelites, how they needed to go to the promised land. What a lot of people miss in that, where yes, God led them out of Egypt, they still had to walk 7 days to get to the promised land. Right? And a lot of times, it's taught and it's focused on where, oh man, they were, derailed for 400 years, whatever it was. But it's like, for them to just simply do what God told them to do originally, they had to walk 7 days. So there was already a process that had to happen for their promise to even show up. And so I think for the entrepreneur out there, when you just think about that verse alone, it's just saying, hey, I'm going to commit myself to the process of being successful. Now, again, it's tailored to everyone's goals and callings and everything like that. But the key is you have to have a strategy, but then really commit yourself to it. And I think that's what's missed a lot of times, because, you deal with things like perfectionism, you deal with things like imposter syndrome, and all those mentalities, all they do is basically keep you stuck. As opposed to when you're committed to something, you're basically just saying, hey, I'm willing to do whatever I need to at least take one step. And again, one of the things Myron Golden says all the time is like, one solution to a problem creates 10 more problems. And again, for me, it's like those problems are a great thing because I now have more information. And that's whether I fail or it succeeds. I know if it succeeds, let me do more of that. If it fails, let me get information and see how I can put together the pieces. But at the end of the day, I'm moving forward, trusting and honoring the process, as opposed to, oh, this must happen, I have to be the one to make it happen. I'm not the one that makes it happen. I just honor the process. So one of the things that I'm really, at least the way in which I differentiate myself when it comes to when I tell people about setting their goals and things of that nature, I don't talk about time. Like, I know that, people use the SMART goal framework. And I think it's nice. I think it works. I think, but if I, under using, again, Proverbs 16:3, I don't need to worry about a time. If I'm honoring the process, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. So that's when, and again, I can go all day with this, but you think about Galatians 6:9, where it says, don't grow weary in doing good work, for at the right time you shall reap the harvest. So if I'm doing good work and I don't grow weary, I'll reap a harvest at the right time. And the right time being whenever God sees fit. So that is, for me, again, I mentioned 2 scriptures, but I want to properly flesh them out. Proverbs 16:3, commit all your actions to the Lord, and he will cause them to succeed. But Galatians 6:9, never grow weary in doing good work, for at the right time you shall reap a harvest. So, but both of those scriptures simply speak to, let me honor the process.
So with that, I know you went right into honoring the process, but let's take a step back, because what the goal is that you create, do you feel that like that should be aligned with what God has for you? And how do you know that? I mean, I know Habakkuk 2:3 says, write the plan and make it plain. But you're writing a plan based on what you want.
Oh, see, okay, you on to something. You got to get me going. You got to get me going. So I think a lot of people misconstrue that scripture. So when it says, write the vision down, make it plain, people, they confuse or misinterpret what plain actually means. So for me, I interpret plain as like a third grader should be able to read this plan, this strategy, and understand what it means. And so for me, there's like 3 criteria I believe every believer and entrepreneur should follow when it comes to setting their goals. When you're setting a goal, it should benefit you, it should benefit others, but it also should advance God's kingdom. And like those should be outlined so clear. So when you think about, and you mentioned, just how does a person know and all these things, honestly, it's just a matter of taking time to think about it. Because, we try to, people, especially entrepreneurs, because we're so busy most of the time working in our business instead of on our business, we don't take the time to probably just think these things through. But if and again, this is my personal framework where it's like, okay, if I'm clear on, okay, I want my business to do this in 2025.
Yeah.
All right. How does that benefit me? All right. I'm now able to maybe pay myself more. I can maybe add a staff member. I can maybe do this. I can maybe do that. All right, cool. That's how it benefits me. How does it benefit others? All right. Well, if I'm making, if I double my revenue, that means I've doubled my customer base, whether it's I double my leads or I double my conversion rate. I'm serving more people, that'll allow me to get more referrals. That'll allow me to get more testimonials. It'll allow me whatever it is, right?
Gotcha.
It gets me in more rooms. Then how does it advance the kingdom of God? All right. Depending on the business that you're in, I know that the business, at least that I'm in, and every entrepreneur I believe should be in, there's a part of a calling. So it's like, okay, if I'm operating in my calling, maybe somebody from the outside sees me and decides to walk in theirs as a result and do whatever God's called them to do, right? Like I've at least sparked interest in someone walking in purpose as a result of that. So to your question, just how does somebody know? It's really just taking time to think about it. And I think, we try to live so fast because again, as an entrepreneur, you just you're doing everything, especially when you first start out. You're the marketing person, you're the content writer, you're everything, admin.
Yeah.
But it's like, you just got to take the time to work on the right things. And I think that process for goal setting is how you do it.
I think that can be very difficult in today's society. We are becoming so conditioned with this microwave mentality. And speaking of scripture, speaking of the things you talked about, trusting the process and taking time to do that. So many people are fighting against time all the time.
Yeah.
So, well, that was a lot of times, but anyway. So what would you say to someone? Because as entrepreneurs, we always have setbacks. And a lot of times that comes in when we're setting a goal and it's supposed to happen in, say, I don't know, 2-3 months, or specifically 3 months, and we don't get there in 3 months.
Yeah.
A lot of people end up throwing their hands up and moving on to the next thing, so never really following through. So what advice do you give people who don't trust the process?
If you don't trust the process, then you didn't plan well enough.
Yeah.
To me, it's as simple as that. So you mentioned about how we don't have time. The Bible, and King Solomon wrote on this in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything. And I believe it's chapter 1 or chapter 3, one of the two. But he basically outlines that there's always, in summary, there's always a time to go get, there's a time to gather, there's a time to let go, and there's a time to keep. There's nothing new under the sun. Like, that's just what it is, right? So when people use the excuse of there's not enough time, it's usually not true, right? And it's just what it is. And that's not to condemn anybody, but it's just like, well, if you're a business owner and you really want this to work, you make it work. Like
he says it nicer than I do.
Right.
Yeah, like you just,
I was like, you love to say that.
but it's the truth. It's the truth.
I'm
it's
a
like,
little raunchy with my delivery.
well, sometimes you need to hear how they need to hear it. But the reality is, you just have to make time for it. If you truly know that this is a business that God called you to, if you truly believe in your heart that this is a business that you're supposed to run, you're supposed to operate, you make the time, and that requires sacrifice. That requires sacrificing, going to hang out with friends. That requires sacrificing, spending money where you shouldn't be spending and investing it back in your business. It's sacrifice. So most of the time when people say they don't have time, usually it's mismanagement where they're not managing their time well, or they genuinely have no idea just how to manage the time overall, right? Like they just don't understand time blocking and just how you use your time, because that's your most valuable asset. But to the person who is not trusting the process, I would tell them to stop practicing insanity as well. And I think a lot of people fall into that, where it's like, okay, let's say your first goal is the first 3 months, you don't hit it. All right, fine. You didn't trust the process. You try setting the second goal. You go for it. It doesn't work. Third goal, go for it. Doesn't work. At some point, you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say something's wrong. And it can't always be all the circumstance. They didn't come through on time. They didn't pay their invoice on time. At some point, we got to say, I have to change.
Yes.
And at least I'll speak for me in my own experience. That was when I got broke enough. When I said,
got to do it every time.
I said, okay.
Every time.
Like, something needs to change here.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's kind of the bumps and bruises, at least again in my experience, but I'm certain you guys have those same type of stories. But it's just like, at some point you have to trust the process, because you look at any of your most successful entrepreneurs, they all for the most part have the same story. There's the same themes, and it all boils down to they trusted the process. So once you're kind of at that point of like, okay, I keep bumping my head, and somehow expecting a different result, you have to just say, all right, like, how can I change? Why am I not trusting the process?
Yeah.
You know, what information do I need to go get? What skills do I need to refine? Different things like that. So that way you can honor your process. So that way you don't have to think about, in 3 months. And again, there's a certain level of peace that you get when you genuinely honor the process, to where it doesn't even matter the result, because again, God handles the result. I'm honoring the process. So if I don't hit a certain mark or whatever by 3 months or whatever it is, if I know in my heart I did everything I'm supposed to do to the best of my abilities, I can have peace. And that's where you think about Philippians 4:13, right? A lot of people use that verse as, you know, the triumphant, let's go get it. But previous to that scripture, to that verse, it talks about, I know how to be content with a little, I know how to be content with a lot.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm content. Now, that's a paraphrase.
Yeah.
Many of y'all are going to try to fact check it, you know? But it's a paraphrase. But the idea behind it is, I'm content. Like, I've done all that I'm supposed to do. My faith is in the right place. I know what I believe. I trust what I trust in terms of my process. And I know that God is one that delivers it. I'm content.
Yeah.
I've done all I'm supposed to do.
I think a lot of people struggle with starting and really knowing where to start, especially, like, I know we're talking about just pick something and trust the process, but there are so many people who struggle with picking something. So when things go wrong, they just automatically assume I picked the wrong thing. And then they'll go to something else. In addition to that, I find that the older you get and the more that time is running out, because I know, you know, you say there is a time for everything. I agree with that. But as you get older, you do feel like I'm up against the clock, you know? So, I mean, really, people stop with trying to figure out what business to start, and they don't get past that. So, I mean, just to clarify a little bit, is it really just that simple? Like, okay, let me think about it and just pick something. Now, before you answer, I will say that I believe that all businesses can work.
I'm in agreement with you.
And it's just a matter of, like you said, putting the right framework in place. But some people are just not good at some things, you know? Like, if you're not a good leader, you probably shouldn't be the director of a school, you know?
Right.
Okay, so in that case, even though that's your desire to be that, that may not be a good fit for you. Yeah. You know, so.
Yeah. No, so I do think you bring up a really great point. Two things I really want to point out. Number one, I think people need to up their grit. Like, because again, if something don't work, there needs to be something in you that just says, I'm gonna make this work. In the same way, if any of us, for whatever reason, like, we're hungry,
we're gonna figure it out.
We're gonna figure this thing.
And don't let your kid be hungry.
You see what I'm saying?
You're gonna figure it out.
And again, that's not the time to be thinking, oh, woe is me. That's not the time to, you know, oh my God, this and the third. Is no, we have to figure this out. True. And so I think it's, for me, I define it as simple just because it's, okay, when I place that same type of mentality where it's like, okay, if this was, you know, my family that needed food or whatever the case, if I needed to eat, I'm gonna make a way. It's basically applying that same level of thought towards the business.
Right.
Because I do think, to your point about how I believe the same thing, where any business can work, it's just a matter of working it. It like, the work always works, but you have to work it. So I think when people encounter that first obstacle and they just pick up another business, next thing you know, they got 5 LLCs,
right.
And, you know, they doing a whole bunch of just running around,
right.
hustling. It's just like, for what? It's like, you a lash tech, a real estate agent, you doing taxes too on the side. It's just like,
baking cakes.
Yeah, right. It's just, and again, I'm not like, then you also deal with, you know, not every gift you have is meant to be a business.
Yeah.
That part.
You know, I was listening to TD Jakes, and he broke this down beautifully, where he spoke about his enjoyment of cooking. And he said that while he enjoys cooking, that does not mean that he needs to open a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Because for those that know, restaurants have very thin margins and it's just difficult to really make money unless you're like one of those. And the way he broke it down was just really good, where it's just like you have to determine, number one, are you solving a problem? And I think every business coach in America is going to start off with that. What problem are you solving?
Yeah.
And so that's really the second part, where it's like, first off, you got to just up your toughness, where it's like you're gonna take the bumps, bruises, and everything like that, but you got to keep going. Secondly, if you are trying to figure out, what's the right business, is this business for me, all that different type of stuff, you just have to decide or figure out just what problem are you solving. And then I will go even deeper than that to say, do you actually care about that problem? Because there are people that are probably running a business, trying to solve a problem they care nothing about, or a problem that they've never even experienced themselves. And the best entrepreneurs are solving problems that they themselves at one point experienced, which again makes their work deeper, where it's not just, let me just do it just because, it makes me a quick buck. It's like, something. Right, it really means something to you. So I think a lot of people fall in that boat.
They be stuck.
Right. But what I hear from you is your faith has shaped the way you approach leadership as well as entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, there are some people out there who are not, I guess, rooted in faith. If they come to one of your seminars and come to hear you speak, will they be able to walk away with something as an entrepreneur that maybe does not use faith as a way to get to?
Oh, absolutely. Because the thing is, it's, to me, I'm learning, because I don't want to sound like I'm, the almighty expert at it, but I'm learning that it's just all in how you language it. So in the same way I say, manage your finances well, from a scriptural perspective, I can just say steward your finances well, right? So it's all just how I language it. Because at the end of the day, I can teach someone how to run a business. I can teach someone how to, make an honest living with their business without even bringing up a single scripture. But I know in my heart what I'm teaching is biblical.
Yes.
Now, if someone opens the door for that, absolutely, I can give you the whole breakdown. But if not, because my function, at least when I'm in coach mode, is not to push my faith on you. Yeah. But I'm also not going to hide the fact, this is where I got this information from.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, God's principles work regardless of who's using them.
Right.
And there are a lot of very famous individuals that use godly principles, but just don't say God. And it's going to work just because it's a principle that God put here on the earth. And that's just what it is. So for the person who might not be, quote unquote, into the Bible, or maybe not even a Christian, you come to any of my things or engage with my organization, with me in any way, shape, or form, you're going to get something.
Right.
But I'm also not going to sit here and say you're not going to hear nothing about God.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not about to just totally shut that off.
For sure.
For me. Yeah. So it's totally up to the person. And it took me a minute to get to that level of confidence. So, and I want to say that just because I don't want it to sound like I was always this. It took me some time. It took some refining just through my own life experiences to say, okay, I'm confident in who I am. I'm confident in what I'm able to do. And I'm confident in just who I'm for and who I'm not. And being comfortable with that. Because, one of the hardest things I think that I had to learn is really turning clients or customers away when you need the money.
Right.
Listen, that is hard.
You feel like when it's about the 17th, 18th of the month,
and rent is coming around.
You feel right. And you know what I'm saying? Such and such said, oh, I need this done. And there's a total misalignment of values. And you now, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's hard.
You see what I'm saying? So, but that's where, again, just circling back, where it's okay, I'm going to honor my process.
Yes.
Where, you know what, even if it is the 19th, 20th of the month, whatever it is, I'm trusting that God's going to provide. And as long as I operate according to my values, I have to just trust it.
Yeah.
And again, there have been plenty of months where it was close, plenty of months where I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I can proudly say that I ain't missed a payment yet.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, a lot of us are dealing with trauma. That's just, a lot of people accept that they have to live with some of the trauma. Then there are people who hide it. But how important is self-confidence in being a leader?
Everything.
Or can you fake it until you make it?
You can fake it till you make it, but you can only fake it for so long.
Yeah.
Like you can only fake it for so long. Like,
but that's hard when you're in the process of dealing with trauma and you're trying to still lead.
Yeah. To me, it depends on the context. When you're talking about leading like other people and you're still working through your
like
stuff.
if you have a business. Yeah.
If you have a bit like self-confidence is everything. But if you do operate a business, sometimes you just got to tuck that stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, to me, again, just with faith background, I look at Jesus when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane. He didn't want to go on that cross.
Right. Of course not.
Like it says that he cried, God, like take this cup away, but I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And again, not necessarily trauma in the same context as we do, but it's just like, I don't want to do this. I don't feel like going through what I'm about to go through. Right. But ultimately he said, not my will, but your will be done. And so, you know, it's just like, if you're going to step into being a business owner, if you're going to do it. Because the reality is, and this is a freeing, liberating lesson for me that I learned, you know, might be a little controversial. Don't nobody care what you're going through as a business owner.
Sometimes your friends don't
even care.
Like nobody cares. Like it's just like, you know, and that's not to say that,
true.
You know, it's not a horrible thing, but it's just, we have to accept it for what it is because, you know, every client is not going to be your friend, and that's not what we even want the relationship to necessarily be.
Exactly. Yes.
We want to have a good relationship with them, absolutely. But if I just, you know, am going through something, I still need to show up for the call. I still need to show up on stage to the best of my ability. Now, that's one side of it. Now, on the flip side, if I know I'm just in such a space where it's impossible for me to show up, it's impossible for me to, how I would describe, just operate in excellence, then okay, you take a break. But it's structured in a way where, listen, email blast out, hey y'all, we gonna close up shop for 2 weeks, however long, while you get yourself together actively, so that way you can still honor your promise to your customers and come back, right? So I think there's intentionality with all of it, but I don't think as anyone's dealing with their trauma or you're growing personally or anything like that, it needs to limit you, because you can't run a business if, you know, 1 week you're up, another week you're down, another week up, then you go ghost for 2 weeks. It's just like nobody's you have no trust with the marketplace at that point. And that's nobody's fault but yours. As much as you may be justified for dealing with whatever it is that you're dealing with, because we all got, you know, different levels of trauma and things like that we're dealing with. But at the end of the day, the marketplace wants what they want.
When they want it.
When they want, right? And so it's not, we don't need to treat the marketplace like they are our therapists, like they should be so understanding. It's like, no, we want the product or the service you provide. And is you going to do it or no? I can go to somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's that cut and dry. Yeah.
It is that cut and dry because, you know, people will make it seem like they don't understand my feelings. They don't have to understand your feelings.
Right. Yeah. Like, why is that even in consideration right now?
I mean, you know, there are a lot of people fall into being an entrepreneur, especially in the beauty space. They kind of fall into it, and I just don't think they know any better.
Yeah. But that's why having mentors and coaches and things like that to help you walk through that are so important.
Very important. So who leads the leader? Do you go to masterminds? Are you coached by anyone?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So I literally was meeting with one of my mentors today. And again, it was like one of the meetings where it's just like, okay, we gotta get it together, like brain scrambled. Okay, we gotta rethink some things. But no, so I we mentioned Myron Golden. You know, I watched a lot of his stuff, participated in his Make More Offers Challenge, which was really good. Learned a lot. Definitely participate in masterminds. You know, because the saying is, what is it? Every good coach has a coach.
Yes.
And I firmly believe in that.
Yeah.
Because again, sometimes, and this is just what I personally believe, sometimes even if, at least especially as an entrepreneur, you don't always necessarily need someone to give you, here's how you increase your lead gen, here's how you know, you follow up. You might not always need that. Sometimes you just need, you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like sometimes you just need to be in a room where everyone can kind of just come next to you and just say, hey, you got this.
Right.
Where you could just, and that's why, like, I firmly believe when it comes to conferences, masterminds, everything like that, you never lose your money.
Yeah.
Like you
It's an
always
investment.
make good.
It's an investment, yes.
It is because I think about it where it's like, okay, let's just say, for example, hypothetically, if there was a conference right now, think of just the best conference in the world, promoted to you, it costs $10K for you to go. You paid a ticket, right? Let's say it's only limited to 20 people. Now let's say it was a total hoax, but you went and 9 other people came with you, whatever it was, right? Now, the event done live, right? You basically lost your 10K.
Right.
But you got 9 other business owners, real estate, like you have 9 other people on your level that
they
you
got
at least
$10,000.
Right. So now it's like, okay, we might not have the traditional conference and everything like that, but you know what? Hey, like where you from? What you do?
Yeah.
Hey, that still
there's
opens.
something.
There's something you can get from,
Always,
you know what I'm saying? Put
yeah.
yourself in that environment. So, so to your question, absolutely. I love going to events. I love being a part of masterminds. I love being coached. Even though sometimes I always feel good. But
yeah.
But no, it's necessary.
And never do nothing.
Ooh.
So I mean, I agree with having a mentor. But sometimes there's so many fake ones out here. It's so hard to discern like which ones are really going to show you something outside of what you already know. And if you've already been like a high-level entrepreneur, to be honest, the only mentors you can get, they're probably 6 figures.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and if you're not positioned to do that, I don't know that there's really a market for those high-level entrepreneurs to get a mentor in that 5-figure, 4-figure space.
Yeah, there really isn't. There really isn't, and I think that a lot of that has to do with just the overall economy, just where it's going. But
that's sad, you know.
It is, but it also provides an opportunity. It also provides an opportunity.
Yeah, it does.
You know, but at least for someone like me, I do believe, to your point, you touched on a good point, where it's like there does have to be, depending on the season, a prioritization on, okay, is this an execution season or is this a learning season?
True. Yeah.
Right. And so I do believe for people that may be in a space of learning, okay, yeah, go to every conference, read every book, you know, have multiple mentors and everything like that. But that also, there needs to be execution there. I fell into that trap with books in some conferences for me where I was reading every book, and, you know, going to conferences, and I'm like, wait, why am I still broke?
Because that's all you do,
right? I'm reading all these good books. Like, okay, that's what you do. Oh, that's what the landing page looks like. Okay, wait. Why is my bank account?
And still ain't got no landing page.
Right. So, but it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks when I was like, man, I'm tired of being. Why am I still broke? But then it was like, wait, you ain't do nothing. You ain't do nothing. So a lot of the books, to go further, like a lot of books I was reading were sales books. You know, how to have a sales conversation, how to start, close, different frames of closing, you know, all that different type of stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Mirroring, all that stuff. And then I was like, wait, my bank account is still low. Like, what's going on? And again, it hit me like you're not doing any of the things like that's happening. So literally, once I did that, I basically was like, okay, I'm not reading another book for the rest of the year.
Right.
And I was like, I'm gonna just do these things. And once I really started executing, that's when I was able to really see, oh, that's where that applied. Like that's when I started having a whole bunch of epiphanies and everything like that. And I was able to take that next step. And so I think there is like a good pace with like, okay, I'm learning, then I'm executing. I'm learning, then I'm executing.
I like that. Yeah.
For everyone, you know,
and
it's different, but you know, you got to know what you got to do. You got to know yourself a little bit.
And there's like a fine line between I know enough to start and I don't want to act like I know everything, you know, because it's like most of us know enough to actually start and figure it out as we go along. But, you know, I know everyone says you got to get a mentor, so because it's something you're missing, but I feel like I've wasted a lot of money on hiring mentors that are bringing me back to stuff I did 10 years ago. Like they don't, a lot of the mentors out here don't know enough. Unless you're just starting.
No, I agree. Well, so, you know, let me know what you think of this, because I do believe, and I just like to think in frameworks.
Sure.
I think when you're early on getting mentors and stuff like that, your questions can be broad. Your questions can kind of just be, hey, how do I get more customers?
Right.
Hey, how do I create an offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do believe the higher you go up in your entrepreneurship journey, the more specific your questions have to become.
Yes.
And I think that helps, to your point earlier, like kind of weed out the good mentors versus the bad ones. I don't want to say good and bad, but just kind of like...
they're good and bad.
The ones that are effective and the ones that are figuring it out.
Yes.
But how are you figuring it out and you're taking people's money like that? That's not the answer.
You have a good marketing plan.
I think it's just fraud. It's just wrong. That's just my opinion.
No, I'm with you. I am with you.
It's not right.
But there's a lot of that going on. I mean, you look
at
the number of coaches or number of people that became coaches after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, it's just some of it, I just put under the bucket of it just is what it is. Just got to choose as wisely as you can.
Yeah.
But people are spending there's some coaches that are charging like $70, $80, $200,000. And people are literally maxing out credit cards and getting refinancing their properties, getting HELOCs.
Oh yeah, no, they are.
For them not to learn anything. Yeah. It's crazy. And I just think
it's a nasty game.
Yeah.
I would think anytime you spend or invest that type of money in yourself, you have to do your research. Yeah. I mean,
so I do agree with that. Like has to be some level of responsibility on your part to fully vet, but there's definitely some crooks.
Yeah.
They be pulling the wool. Their eyes. I mean, I haven't spent that much money, but I know a lot of people who have, and they don't know anything.
Yeah.
These are people who literally are teaching you basics.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but that's why I think even if it's not necessarily a mentor, finding like an entrepreneurship group that you can be a part of.
Like a mastermind.
Yeah, just finding a mastermind, because I do think as opposed to you spending, let's just say the $200,000 for the one coach,
right?
You can spend the $60K for a mastermind where you can just ask questions and you're more likely to get something out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? At least, and again, depending on the issue that you're facing in your business.
Or you can just hire the people who went to the mastermind to work for you.
That too.
Well, I'm currently in a mastermind, and I really will speak to the room, all of the other people that are in the mastermind class with me. So it does, I guess, cultivate new relationships, new ideas. I mean, I had one of the guys just sent me his ebook. So it does, create those relationships that may be ongoing that can help you out, or somebody that they're in the same space that you are. And we do two totally different things, but we're starting to see, I guess, our progression at the same time, and have other people in your group cheering you on. People you didn't even know 6 months ago, but they are there to cheer you on. And I had one of the guys who just started his podcast, and I was so excited for him. I left him a nice long message on his Instagram, because he was kind of like slow walking it. Yeah. So it is good, because of course I didn't know this man 6 months ago. So for me to send him a nice congratulatory.
So it's like people pay 5 figures for the camaraderie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is important, because it gets lonely.
Yeah, it is.
It gets lonely in this.
Well, there is a lot of data that's saying that a lot of entrepreneurs feel that way. They feel very lonely.
Get a dog.
And they feel like, they just feel like that they are constantly putting effort out to help everyone else, and there's no one to help them.
Yeah.
So they're saying that is one of the key elements that during the study that they find that most entrepreneurs feel that way and at some point in their lifetime.
I agree with that.
Yes.
Because
I was joking about the dog, but
but I do think, even to add on to your point though, it's like when you're building a friendship around the business versus a friend that's just like, oh, I just want to help you feel better. I just want you, right? Where it's like,
let's go get a drink. I don't need a drink right now. I need to figure this out.
So it's like the relationship that you have is completely and totally centered around you winning in your business, me winning in mine.
Correct.
Right. So I think, just again, the value of those masterminds, because, listen, some of these coaches and everything, God bless them.
It is what it is.
Listen, God is a vindicator. So
I mean, it is what it is. I do understand doing your research, but I feel like, and I don't know if a lot of people follow Myron, but he puts out so much great free content.
Yes.
Like, if you don't have any money, just watch his YouTube every day.
Yeah.
Subscribe to his YouTube and just watch it every day. And you can literally change your life just with that.
Well,
just with listening to that. I mean, I'm not trying to. He's not giving me no payment for this.
No, but
so,
I mean,
but I'm just saying.
No, but
I'm just saying,
deal.
but seriously, and I just feel like there's some that you can. And I know that most of coaching, it is really you're packaging together things a particular way that is evident, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's just the way you package it. Some people are too lazy to go out and do the research and because even the things that Myron talked about, he tells you straight up, it's in the Bible, but most people are not going to read the Bible and find it. So it's easier to just listen to him and do it.
Yeah. That's why coaching works.
It does. I'm not against coaching. I know it sounds like that, but I'm not. I just feel like it's too many crooks out there and it makes me angry.
We're in agreement.
Yeah. But let's get back on topic. No, you did a podcast. So you do have a podcast. It's called
The Dream Lifestyle Podcast.
The Dream Lifestyle Podcast. Yes. And that's about dreamers.
Yeah, so
much, right?
It's for.
But I do have a question about your podcast.
Yeah, so it's for leaders and high achievers. For everyone to simply take one step towards their dream lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I'm really big on just doing something deeper than just a dream, because most people's dream is tied to a specific position, title. You know what I'm saying, like dollar amount. Whereas I look at it as what lifestyle do you want to have? You know, and not just like the type of lifestyle where you sleep all day and everything like that. Like, and again, if that's your dream, then cool. But there's a lot of work you're gonna have to do to even get there as an entrepreneur. But where it's like when you think about just, hey, this is how I want to wake up feeling every day. This is what I want my day to day to look like. Whether that's a couple Zoom calls or I fly out here, or whatever it is, it's different for everybody. But just really defining that. And so we talk all things mindset, goals, and self-leadership to help us get there.
That's good. But you did do a podcast on the gift of fear.
Yes.
So I haven't watched the whole thing.
It's okay.
But I will. So how is fear a gift? How would you?
Yeah. So.
And why would you classify it as a gift? It seems so bad.
It does, but here, I love seeing it as a gift simply because number one is we're never going to be able to destroy it. You look at the most successful people in the world, it's not the fact that they have no fear, it's the fact that they know how to act despite it, right? So that's number one. But number two, you look at most of the things that we are afraid of doing, most of the time, that's the thing we should do. That's the thing that's going to open the door for us. So it's kind of just that perspective shift where it's like, okay, as opposed to I'm afraid of it, like, oh my God, let's get away from it. It's like, wait, let me maybe use that as a compass, right? Okay, I'm afraid of starting a podcast. Well, maybe that's what you need to do to get your brand out. Oh, I'm afraid to really start cold calling people because I don't know, they might
hang up on me.
Yeah, they may hang up on me. They may say no. Well, that's probably exactly what you need to do to go to the next level. And again, I got Bible for it. You think about when God asked Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. No, Lord, not me. I don't speak what, right? That's fear. That's fear talking. I'm certain to a certain degree when he asked Noah to build the boat. Hold up, Lord. You want me to do what in my backyard? It ain't no rain. So when you think about just being led to do something, particularly something that's going to improve your life, there's always going to be fear. And so it's when I talk about just fear being a gift, it's basically just saying, hey, let's just kind of flip it on its head and just say, hey, maybe I need to look at this in a way of like, yes, I'm afraid of it, but this could be the very thing that I need to take my life to the next level or my business to the next level.
I agree with that. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur. Every time I say this, 37, 38 years.
That's
and dope. I still try to do small things to face my fears. I was just in Oahu in Hawaii a couple weeks ago. And I went up to the top of the little rock thing up there and jumped maybe 50 feet down.
Really?
Oh, yes.
I think I saw that.
Yes. So I constantly.
Not have done that.
You guys will, because we face fear every day as an entrepreneur. And I really feel like it's part of what kind of keeps us going. And for me, I was raised in very humble beginnings, and I do fear having to ever go back to those humble beginnings. So I definitely think there has to be, when you have that fear, you have to zone in on what it is that you do fear and really work hard to not go back to the things that you may fear. And I'm thinking of it as tangible things, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because I had a wonderful childhood, nothing against it at all, but I knew I didn't belong there. I was like, oh, cannot wait to get out of here. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not necessarily my home, because I had great family support and love. I cannot think of anything that my mom wasn't a part of that I've done over the years. But I did know that I was bigger than what the life that I started off with.
Yeah,
so
that's good. That's good. I think like a hypothetical that also kind of illustrates what you said, where it's like, if, let's just say each of us had a meeting with a big time investor. They was willing to invest $1 billion into our businesses.
Where they at? It's like,
right? like if you knew that meeting was coming next week,
yes,
there's going to be fear there.
Oh my goodness,
but
yes.
because of that fear, you're going to prepare extra. You're going to make sure your whole pitch is dialed in. And that's just because it's like, whoa, I need to prepare for this moment because
I don't want to mess it up.
Right, because I don't want to mess it up. So again, it's just kind of another reason why fear is a gift.
Yes.
You know, where it's like, to your point, where it's like I reverse engineer, where it's like, okay, I don't want to go back there, right? I'm afraid of that. So you know what? Every day I'm pushing forward because I know I'm not going back there. So again, it is very counterintuitive when I say it. That's why, like, that's probably one of my favorite episodes. But it's the truth. I mean, if you want to be successful in anything, I mean, we're talking entrepreneurship, obviously, but the same is true in corporate. The same is true in family. The same is true. I mean, if you want to go to the gym, like, it's the same. You gotta act despite the fear.
That reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It's by Fontaine. A person will often meet their destiny on the road taken to avoid it.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, and I don't know why that just always speaks to me. I found that quote when I was in my 20s, and it just always spoke to me.
Yeah, that's a powerful quote.
It really is. Yeah.
I find it to be true, but it speaks to those things that we're fearful of.
Yes.
And that we try to avoid. But many times we meet our destiny when we take the road directly towards our fear.
Yeah.
Because we're challenging ourselves to face our fears. That's what I'm hearing from that quote, honestly, you know. And
or
I think
just doing it.
Yeah. Because you're trying to avoid it, but somewhere along that route, you're going to be faced with what you were trying to avoid, because you got to get to that.
Well, your destiny is
yes.
Well, I ran into that, just kind of giving a example similar to how you did. Even with, you know, I gave the example of cold messaging. That was my thing. I used to be afraid of, like, just cold messaging somebody, like a stranger.
Oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like,
I'm not doing it.
Why not?
I'm not doing that.
Girl, you missing out on a whole
Yes.
But you know, I used to be super afraid of it, because I'm like, oh man, like, I don't know what I said. What if I say the wrong thing? What if they don't read? What if they think I'm weird? What, like, all these things, and I was afraid of it. But to the point I was saying earlier about how it's a gift, where it's like, wait, one client, especially at least in what we do, could change a month, could change, you know, your entire business. So eventually it was kind of just like, okay, I need to get good at this. And I just started sending the message. The first couple messages were terrible.
Then you get used to it.
Yeah,
right?
but you know, but you just get used to it. You just say, all right, keep going. And I remember I've had some of my best months and some of my favorite clients, you know, who I'm still good friends with and close with to this day, off a cold message.
From doing the thing that you were fearful of.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, and again, I'm just giving a practical example, but it is real.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been reading Audible, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I've been listening to that because, and I do think that some of the things that we're fearful of is because that's what we speak to ourselves in quiet all the time. So it's not the cold calling per se. It's, I'm going to sound crazy, or they're going to think I'm bothering them, or, you know, it's what you think behind that. And a lot of times that does will cause you not to move or do anything.
I mean, I think as always, I don't know, I don't have a problem approaching strangers at all, because they can only say yes or no. You know what I mean?
That is what
I don't know. I really always have that. Like, they can either say yes or no.
Really?
And,
So what have you been afraid of in business?
And don't say
been
nothing.
Afraid of. No, I mean, because I don't. I can't really put my finger on anything I've specifically been afraid of in business. I will say this. What I have been afraid of more recently in business is just the speed of technology. For someone who started off as an entrepreneur many, many moons ago, when technology was not important, and now it's what drives my business specifically, and tons of businesses. So I've had to face that fear of really learning it. And I still just think I'm okay. And whenever I have to do anything that's tech-based, I do procrastinate. And I am not a person who generally procrastinates, but I don't like it at all. Mm-hmm. But I do know that I have to do it. So at some point, and I always tell people, I try to employ people to do it. I'd be like, you could do this in 2 hours. It'd take me 20. Why don't you just go on and do it? Because I will get it done. Right. But it does take me a long time. And as we talked about, time is very important as an entrepreneur.
Well, maybe not to him. Oh my goodness. He's younger than us, so he said he don't worry about
probably not.
Golden spirit.
But once you get to a certain age, that's all you think about. It's like, oh my gosh, how many more years do I have to do this?
Right.
Oh, y'all are thriving. Y'all doing good better.
I mean, I feel young and vibrant.
There you go. That's right.
I do.
I do too.
Vibrant.
And one other fear, honestly, starting this podcast, if I can be honest, because I've always, to me, had great conversation one-on-one with my clients or in small groups. And obviously this is a small group, but I'm hoping that we're going to be speaking to millions. Oh, yeah. That's the goal. So just kind of removing that fear of, I might say something crazy or I might say something stupid. But honestly, if I do, it won't be the first time.
And I hate speaking in front of people.
Really?
100%. Hate it. But I'm going to tell you what's interesting is I feel like I've been called to speak.
You're so good at it.
But I felt terrible. But again, that's tied to things that happened when I was younger. People telling me that, oh, you don't sound right. And your voice this. And, you hear that growing up. So you're just like, no, but I feel like I know it's what I should be doing, but I am scared as sugar honey iced tea.
Well, it sounds like you need to get to it. Better get you on some stages.
Yeah, I know I need to get to it. But so it's the beginning of the year. Okay. And give us a few tips to what people can do at the beginning of the year. Everybody wants to change their life January 1st. That's right. And it's only until January 7th. Then they over it. But we're going to do better this year. 2025, we're going to change our life. We're going to go quarter by quarter.
Facts.
So what can they do? Quarter one,
what you want to do as an entrepreneur, you need to first focus on turning your should do's into must do's.
Okay.
That's number one.
Okay.
I like that.
So like, as opposed to trying to add new things to your plate, right? Just basically refine what you probably should have already been doing, that you should have been doing, right? Whether that's, you're supposed to be making 50 cold calls a day, and you've only been making 25. Right. Just actually make the 50. Right? Yes. And that's just an example, right? If you're supposed to be making a certain amount of posts on social media, actually just do that. So quarter one, I would say, turn your should do's into must do's. But even if, let's say that's a struggle, just make sure you do things that honor your word so you always have a sense of achievement. Okay?
That's good.
So if you say you're going to wake up at a certain time, just wake up at that time so that way you can basically say to yourself, and it's not even necessarily audibly, but it's just like subconsciously, I did what I said, right? If you making your bed, make your bed. If you're going to go to the gym, go to the gym. If you're going to eat healthy, eat healthy. Just do something where you get that sense of achievement, where you're building trust with self. That's quarter one. Quarter two, I believe, no one's actually asking. This is a good question. Got me thinking.
I mean, that's what we do here.
Yeah. So quarter two, I think should refinement. Refinement, just straight quality control. So quarter one, you've probably seen opportunities because again, everyone's trying to expand, grow, build, add new things, right? So more than likely, and we're generalizing, but for the most part, new opportunities have come to your plate. You kind of see where your business is going to be at for the year, right? See opportunities that are coming in your way. So now you might have new opportunities, new streams of income, whatever it is. I think now it's time to refine those things. If you're not usually a speaker, you're going to be up by to speak. All right, let me build that out a little more so that way maybe I prepare, maybe get more opportunities so that way it's cleaner. Because y'all know how it is. Most of the time when someone presents you an opportunity you've never done before, you're going to do it because it's going to pay you.
Right.
But you playing it all calm, cool, and collected, but meanwhile, behind the scenes, you are a total mess.
A hot mess.
So you know what I'm saying? Like I think quarter 2 should be dedicated towards just refining that process, right? So it's like, okay, I'm getting these opportunities, whatever it is, let's refine it. Let's get the emails in. Let's get the templates done. Let's do all that we need to do. So that way it's just like, we're making easy what used to be like chaotic. Quarter 3, I do believe needs to be a time of kind of reflection, planning for the following year. And I get this just because a lot of the biggest companies do the same thing. I mean, and I'm certain you look at, you know, the biggest companies in the world, Facebook, Google, Apple, they're probably already in like 2028, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you look at their planning in terms of quarters, by quarter 3, they're already planning for, in this case, 2026.
Right.
They're already starting to plan. So I do believe on some structural, functional level, we should do the same thing, but while still maintaining. So I do think quarter 3, for the most part, is like a good maintaining spot. Now again, everybody's context is different, so these might not be in this exact order.
Yeah.
But quarter 3, maintain, but also start to kind of game plan. How do I take this in the next level? And then quarter 4, I think you just relax. Like quarter 4, like I'm not saying take a break,
Right.
but you know, and depending on opportunities that are in front of you, just relax. Like just kind of let it be a season of holding, let it be a season of chilling, where obviously you still, you know, hit your numbers and all that kind of stuff. But you don't need to take it in overdrive. This has been a long 3 quarters previously.
Yeah.
So I think quarter 4 is just another 3 months to kind of just game plan what the following year is going to be, you know, kind of reflect on yourself personally. How did you grow? What did you overcome? How'd you handle things like that?
Yeah.
Sounds great.
And there are a lot of entrepreneurs that don't have that balance.
Yeah.
To say, okay, I'm gonna chill for a little while and then I'm gonna go back to planning, because that's important. You be going back crazy out here.
Because I think it puts you in a situation where you can't create and move to the next level when you're constantly having to think.
Yeah, you need to trip once a month.
What got you there in the first place? Those
once a month?
Yeah, you need to go somewhere once a month.
Why did you say once a month?
Once a month.
You don't think?
Even if it's a staycation, you do need to figure it out to like just quiet your mind.
No, we're not saying go take an international trip.
That's what I thought. I thought you were saying like, wait a minute.
But that would be nice.
That would be nice.
When you reach that level, for sure. I want to make sure I understood what you were saying. That's all.
We're women. We want someone to help us reach that.
God be the glory. I'm in a position where I got to make it happen. Praise the Lord.
Hey, that's what it is.
Right.
Men make it happen and we reap the benefits.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Really? I'm not gonna start. That's not. We're ending. We're not starting a whole other conversation.
That's how it works.
Accurate statement.
That's a good statement.
It's just a jokey joke.
Right.
Oh, so you're gonna cook that up, send it out. He's in agreement.
No.
All men should just provide.
Yeah.
So you do you have any conferences or anything coming up?
I do. So one of the things, my main offer right now for my organization is a leadership growth conference every year. It's called the Dreamer Symposium.
Okay.
And what it is a conference for dreamers, leaders, achievers, whether you're in corporate, entrepreneurship, ministry, wherever, for you to basically create vision for the new year. Because all the things that we talked about, I do believe that there is a power, there is an opportunity that's present as we go into the new year, that requires some serious intentionality. You know, one of the things that irritates me, a problem I want to solve, is people taking their New Year's resolutions not serious enough, like where they don't take it as serious as they should. And so I've thought about and applied just through my own life experiences, how to get clear on what you're going to accomplish, right? Like truly making the writing the vision, making it plain, but also really getting clear on the benefits, who benefits, getting clear on how we're going to do it and why I'm going to do it. And so at the conference, you know, we flesh out all that with the goal setting component of it, but also everyone leaves with a 5-step strategy to achieve those goals. And so, and again, it's layered, but it's important. Everyone leaves with knowing what they're going to do personally, professionally, and financially. Those are the only 3 goals we cover right now. So it's a 1 day, well, 1.5, so we do a virtual day where we actually get clear on the goal. But everyone's going to leave with a personal, professional, financial goal and a 5-step strategy as to how you're going to
amazing. That's amazing. Is that in person and virtual?
Right now, it's just in person.
Okay.
It's just in person. We have speakers that come in. This upcoming year, I don't know when this is coming out, but I'm having Dr. Tanya from Dallas. She's flying in. I have a couple other entrepreneurs as well as leaders in all the different spaces. I have a friend of mine who works at JP Morgan Chase. He's coming in to speak. But you know, this conference, it's not even about the speakers. It's really about the personal work. So there's personal workshops, there's, you know, panels, there's a networking lunch. It's really like an entire experience. So that way, as people go through, in this case, their 2025 or just their new year, they're really able to tie their progress and their productivity to, like, I had this experience and this is what I said I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna commit to it.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that's what
that is amazing. This has been an amazing experience.
Yo, I was nervous, but y'all took we did it.
It wasn't even that bad.
Yeah, I'm thankful.
But today was a great day to talk about leadership. It's a new year, and these are some tips that you can apply to your New Year's resolutions that you're going to keep this year.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So thank you for joining us for another edition of the Icon Theory podcast.